Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Good morning, class, and welcome back to the Nerd Academy podcast, your source for nerddom news and commentary. I am your host and superior webhead master, Jarod Bachman-Stubbs. I don't know why my camera keeps flickering. It did that at the beginning of the Tales of the Jedi episode, too. We are here because the hierarchy of the DC universe has changed forever, or so they say. I guess we'll see. We're here to talk Black Adam. And I am very excited to jump into that with our very special guest, whom I will introduce right after we get into the part that happens at the beginning of every episode. And y'all know what it is, because the hierarchy of Kick-Ass Bloody Mary mix has never changed since Sunday's Bloody Mary got on the scene. You guys know the drill by now. SundaysBloodyMary.com has the most badass Bloody Mary accoutrement in the galaxy. They have their 2-time award-winning spicy mix, my go-to. They also have their mild and traditional mixes if the spicy mix is not up your alley. And again, as we've said before, the traditional mix is a vegan mix as well if you're not into animal product. They also have their pickled dilly beans, okra, and asparagus, and some cute apparel. So get on over to SundaysBloodyMary.com/shop. Use code TNAP, TNAP, at checkout. You get 10% off your order, and you help out your favorite nerds while you do it. Speaking of some badass nerds, we have
Dimithri Perera from the Keeg. Yeah, everybody always thinks my name is the Keeg because I'm host of the Keeg. They're like, your name's Keegan, right? That's your name, and I'm like, oh no, not even close. It's Dimithri. The Keeg is just geek backwards.
It feels weird because I'm like, I know your name's Dimithri, and I don't know if I'm supposed to introduce you as that or just call you the Keeg. Like, it feels like it's been adopted as like a superhero persona, you know? Like,
yeah, you say superhero.
Calling Spider-Man Peter Parker, you know? Like, it's the difference between say Batman or Bruce, you know?
I mean, it could be. I mean, I'm trying to say that the Keeg is separate than me, but it also sounds like it could be like I joined a fraternity. Like, you say superhero, I say frat bro. Hey, what's up, man? It's the Keeg here. Like, anytime anyone calls themselves does something, it's a superhero name or a frat, like a frat nickname. I'm the Keeg, man.
That's very funny. That is very funny. Well, before we get into our Black Adam discussion, let the lovely people know where they can find you and what you do, my friend.
Yeah. My name is Dimithri. I'm the host of the Keeg. We are also a podcast. We do live streams as well. And you can find us online at The Keeg Show, on social media at The Keeg Show, TikTok, Instagram. We also have Facebook and Twitter, but TikTok and Instagram are big ones. We're also on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show and youtube.com/The Keeg Show.
Absolutely. Dimithri is one of my favorite people on Comic Talk. Incredibly entertaining, and I've been meaning to find like a good episode for us to cross over on.
This is gonna be a good episode.
Yeah, and you know, I was like, you know what? It's a Black Adam one, man. We got to make it happen. So yeah, very excited to talk about this movie because it's weird talking about Black Adam post a lot of the news of the last week. You know, there's and we'll be talking about it on this show probably next week in a news roundup more in depth. But coming off of Black Adam and being like, you know what? That was a fun, serviceable, The Rock-led romp. And, you know, sure, do I have notes for it that we could get into for hours? Absolutely. And we will a little bit here today. But for the most part, you know, this was just a fun one, you know, with the big revelation in the post-credit scene. which that much emphasis on a post-credit scene is just unfucking heard of and hilarious to me.
Yeah.
But then all these shoes start to drop. Henry Cavill's like, no, it's not just a fun little moment. I'm back for real. Then you get the James Gunn news. Like there's been a lot of movement in the DC camp. And, you know, whether or not it was intentional, as I joked earlier, it does feel like the hierarchy of power may be changing. And DC...
yeah, that's what people are saying.
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
I've
it's
heard
just
that.
we all thought it was going to be The Rock, and
yeah,
you know, he could tell the future, but he thought the prophecy was about him.
Yeah, honestly, if it's not unlike Dr. Fate's visions throughout the movie. You know, it's like you're seeing one thing and you're seeing Hawkman screaming out in pain. What you don't realize is that it's a fake Hawkman. What you don't realize is that The Rock just happened to have a movie open the week James Gunn became the head honcho of DC Studios.
Yeah.
But yeah, before we dive deep into some ideas and some opinions, Dimitri, your overall thoughts on Black Adam?
My overall thoughts, Black Adam, are if I was 10 in the year 2003, this movie would have been my favorite movie. And that's not even a slight, right? Like
I'm glad
like
you say
joke.
that. I'm glad you say that. Yeah. It does not have to be a bad thing. Yeah.
Like this movie and Venom, because I have the same thoughts about Venom. They were made 15 years too late.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're both this anti-hero kind of thing, and somebody pointed out, I can't take credit for this, is that like in the DC universe, especially, this line between good guys don't kill, bad guys kill doesn't exist in modern superhero movies.
Yeah.
So you can't hinge a premise on Black Adam as the hero that kills when Batman has a kill count. Ben Affleck's Batman has a kill count even higher than Black Adam in this movie. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
And that's modern superheroes. Like the MCU, those superheroes kill all the time. They're not bloodthirsty, but they do kill.
Yeah, I think the only hero in the MCU who has like made a point of not taking a like sentient life is Spider-Man. Like that is the only one who's made a big deal about it.
Yeah, depends on whether those Outriders that Thanos have are alive or not.
See, that I always just interpreted them as being like weird, like out of like a jar in a lab chimera type things. Like I never thought they were like super sentient. Not like kind of like the Chitauri. Like the Chitauri are like synthoid, like
the Chitauri are an actual alien race that is able to invade. They have to be more sentient than the Outriders. Like, I'll give you the Outriders.
Slightly so, animals. But they also all shut off like the droids in the Phantom Menace when that mothership gets taken out.
That's true.
So, like, then that's what I'm saying. I mean, like, there's a weird give. Yeah. Like, we don't know the intricacies of the MCU Outriders and Chitauri. So I was like, well, if the Chitauri shut down when the ship gets blown off, maybe there's room for the Outriders and instant kill mode. But your point absolutely stands. Your point absolutely stands.
In the comics, the Chitauri are an alien race. And the MCU and the comics are different. And, like, but at the same time, I think Robot Chicken needs to get a hold of this concept because, like, you know, like, what is going on? You're right. I forgot about the Chitauri shutting down. Are they their own race? Is there one Master Chitauri? I don't know how it works, but I do know that Spider-Man did kill mode in Avengers Endgame.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I don't know whether Scott Lang, Ant-Man hasn't killed.
Oh, no, he steps on Call Obsidian.
Yeah, but who knows? Who knows if that, like, actually killed him? Those guys are strong. Like, I don't know.
You're not wrong. Like, I can't argue with you.
What really killed those guys is them disappearing at the end when they got snapped away.
Yeah.
So
which was at the hands of a man who has very much no problem killing.
Right.
But
how bad is it, by the way? How bad is it that like the other army is an army, let's just say, of animals, and you're just slaughtering all these animals?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
it's brutal. I am glad you brought up something though. Because I have a lot of opinions that are going to kind of loop back to blank is different from the comics. And I'm a firm believer that just because something is different from the source material does not inherently make it bad. I will say some of my biggest gripes with the movie have to do with things that feel like new additions to the lore and canon of Black Adam. And I'm not going to pretend to be some like long lived Black Adam stan who's coming out of the closet to be very angry at this movie. I'm not. Right. I'm not going to pearl clutch over some stuff. There are some very interesting decisions for me, like the way I described it to my girlfriend. I was like the Iron Giantification of Black Adam. Where like I want to avoid saying like he's the family's pet superhero, but like he very much has that like, hi, I am the incredibly powerful near god that you guys found. So now I'm just y'all's problem. Like I'm just y'all like it's like they adopted a puppy, but instead of it being a puppy, it's fucking Black Adam.
Cleaning up after his messes and all that.
Yeah, cleaning up after his messes and like the interplay like between Black Adam and the kid, like it felt it felt like a more violent version of the Iron Giant in some way, and like it's the only comparison I can really think to make without being incredibly diminutive and keep going with the pet thing.
Some people mentioned the Terminator. Terminator 2.
That's another great one. That is another great one. Even down to like, hey, here's your catchphrase, like
right at the end of the movie, Black Adam, dies and he gives a thumbs up as he slowly sinks into the ocean.
The alternate ending is him being pulled into hell by Sabak, and then you get the lava. So like that was a weird decision to me, and it for me it goes back to and obviously there are conversations to be had about a Black indigenous man playing a Middle Eastern coded character, and there's a lot to unpack there. And yes,
we didn't even touch on that on our episode of Black Adam. Like I get it's like, huh, okay, that's a whole thing in and of itself.
Yeah, and it's not somewhere on my Twitter. I'll try to link the article in the episode description. Written by somebody who has the background and heritage to actually make their voice worth listening to on the subject matter. But like it is worth mentioning that like, yes, the casting happened in 2007 and
the script was probably written in it was probably it was 2007, but the script was probably written in 2007, right? Like,
I mean, it kind of does not feel far off from that, and I think it's I think it's funny that in almost like 15 years time, we're looking at such a different world, and it kind of felt weird at a couple points where I like kind of remembered, oh yeah, that's not what Black Adam's heritage is, like he's not The Rock. And
we give it a buy though, right? Like we give it a buy because The Rock is near universally liked.
Yeah.
And like we give him a buy. And then the fact is like this movie might not have ever been made if it wasn't for The Rock being attached to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like the comic character is a C-list anti-hero / villain. And
I was gonna say C-list is being very very liberal as well with the.
They've been trying to
the
move him
listing.
like, yeah, they've been trying to move him up lately, but it might be because the Rock kind of has been putting a spotlight on Black Adam. But
Yeah, well,
so
I mean, there's
I
that.
don't
And,
know
like,
whether this movie would have been
Injustice
made.
has done him a couple favors as well.
Yeah.
Especially like, after all of Superman's regime falls, like Black Adam's one of like the 4 people still standing on that side of the conflict.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, and again, like I think it goes to, and you hit it right on the head there. You have this actor who, since courting WB about, hey, let me play this, C-list, D-list anti-hero.
Yeah.
You don't tell him no, because no one gives a shit about this character, but people give a shit about The Rock. And flash forward however many years into 2022, people really give a shit about The Rock. And the universe that you could put this Black Adam movie into is in desperate need of a big W. And it's just such a fascinating thing that you see what I think were a lot of choices that were made because, well, our main character is The Rock. Like I said, the Iron Giant, which one is Arnold? T800, T1000?
I think Arnold's T800.
Yeah,
I think the Liquid Metal's T1000.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. The T800ification of Black Adam, where he's just kind of like this like fun living action figure for the kid,
right?
I think is really fun. And I also like, not to be that guy, but whenever the movie was ending, because my girlfriend, she's more of a Marvel person, she's an X-Men diehard. And very much went into this like, I don't know a damn thing about Black Adam. I'm here for the ride. And whenever he sat on the throne at the end, she was like very confused. And she's like, he went through all of this to like just be the new ruler. And I just went, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Because in the comics, he's like kind of like a bad guy T'Challa for Kahndaq. And then her mind is being blown, and then The Rock, having to have his The Rock hero moment, smashes the throne. And there's a part of me that's like, no, don't hide from this. Own it. If you want him to be this dark, complicated guy, let him be Kahndaq's protector, but let's not pretend that he's also not its ruler. And I kind of winced when they made that decision because, like, it's the ethical thing, and we can say that the movie Black Adam is not a dictator of sorts,
right?
Like his comic counterpart. But also, I just found it entertaining that, again, like the thing that makes Black Adam so edgy and dangerous is that he's okay with killing. But as you said, in a DC universe kind of chock full of killers, like Batman has a bat blicky on him sometimes in this universe. Like, let's not pretend about that.
Yeah.
Like you kind of lose your edge if that's your only edge. And then you take away the other thing that could have like made him really complicated is that not only is he a head of state, he's kind of like an iron-fisted ruler who's, Kahndaq has bad foreign relations because people don't want to deal with Black Adam. Like, I don't know. It felt like a little bit of a cop-out to just make him like edgy Shazam by the end of the movie. And
that's the thing. Like they've been positioning Black Adam as like the bad Superman, but like
in a universe where Superman's already on a shot clock to becoming evil.
Right. Like in this universe, Superman isn't the shining beacon of hope that he is in the comics.
Yeah.
And, like something that we almost touched on earlier is that like there are obviously going to be differences from the comics. The MCU differs from the comics in a lot of ways, but you keep the soul of the character. You understand the character first, and then you can change them however you want, right? That's how they do it in the comics all the time when they do alternate universes, is like you understand the soul of Superman, and then you can make him like a robot pirate in one universe. Like, okay, because he's Superman as a robot pirate. By the way, that's never actually existed, I don't think, but it could have. I don't know.
What I do know is that in the next Crisis event, when you have Cyborg Blackbeard Superman, that you're owed some royalties, and we have video evidence of that royalty owing here now today.
I mean, now that you mention it, there's already been a Cyborg Superman, so just
you're halfway there.
I'm halfway there to getting those royalties. So instead of
Batman's been a pirate, and Batman's been a pirate.
Batman has been a pirate. I think his name was Batbeard. I think
it was.
Was it? Okay, yeah. So and we have a composite. It's called composite Batman Superman. Is that what it is? With its half Batman Superman. So we have all the puzzle pieces necessary to make a pirate robot Superman. But instead of positioning Black Adam as instead of positioning Black Adam as the bad Shazam, which is what he is supposed to be, they positioned him as a bad Superman. But what he really should be is bad Black Panther. Or good Doctor Doom. Or good-ish Doctor Doom, right? You're positioning him
evil
alone.
Doom.
Yes. Yeah. Almost like a Namor of sorts. And so we didn't get that. The Rock is standing in his own way. This is my thesis. The Rock standing in his own way. He could have a variety of characters, and this is kind of funny to say, like Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds is a funny, charismatic actor. He's not, as far as I see, anytime soon going to win an Oscar, but he doesn't need to, because Ryan Reynolds is a national treasure, even though he's Canadian. Here,
1 sec. Sorry, my headphones came loose. You're absolutely right. He could do whatever the hell he wanted to, and Black Adam again is just such a hilariously dark horse pick for him. Again, back in 2007, brought us all here. A development hell that most movies would never survive.
It's so wild. Back when The Rock had hair. That's how long it's been. The Rock had hair.
That is such a perfect timestamp. I never thought of it that way.
The Rock had hair when he first started developing Black Adam, which is so weird because, think about, do we remember The Rock when he had hair? We do. Gen Z doesn't.
Yeah.
He was born without hair, and he never developed it. That's
not at all.
But The Rock's standing in his own way. Yeah, he's standing in his own way. His brand is bad. His brand is about, and this is someone, I'm a fan of Black Adam as a character. I'm a fan of The Rock. But The Rock could do more varied roles like Ryan Reynolds, which isn't the most varied of roles.
No.
But it is way more varied. The Rock is afraid of showing weakness. This isn't even arguable. He's just afraid of showing weakness. He cannot show weakness in his characters. He cannot lose a fight. Contractually obligated to not lose fights. If he loses against Vin Diesel, he has to win against Vin Diesel, which is the problem that happened on the Fast franchise, right? Yeah. So Black Adam can't lose a fair fight, which sucks because he needs to go up against Shazam and lose. He is a villain. He is Shazam's #1 arch nemesis, and he needs to lose against the kid who can turn himself into a god. He needs to lose against the bad guy, and he can't. So he can't cry. He can't lose a fair fight. And some people will bring up in Jungle Cruise, he got stabbed and fell off a tree. Yes, because he got stabbed in the back. He's allowed to be stabbed in the back. He's allowed to be unfairly depowered, beaten up. Yes, but he can't lose a fair fight because then that would be his fault and his flaw and his weakness. He can't even cry. Cry, dude. He didn't cry when his son died in this movie. He just screamed anger.
Yeah, he just got mad. And I agree with you completely. It holds him back. I think The Rock is you put it so succinctly. He's in his own way. And as again, as fun as this movie was, and is down for another romp like it, I'm worried about what inevitable Black Adam v Shazam looks like. And I'm even more like kind of cautious about like Black Adam versus Superman. Like it's pardon me, it's very weird and fraught territory that I don't know what to expect from it. And you're exactly right. I had that same, like, how does the I can't lose a fight contract stipulation factor into this movie? Because like the whole movie, the JSA fights him to a standstill.
Yeah, but he never loses.
Until he like beats them. Like it's never like you never even get the vibe that he's down and out. Like they don't even try to do like the superhero movie. Oh, the hero's getting their ass beat and here they come. Like he's never getting his ass beat. They're just fighting to a standstill.
Yeah.
Until he abruptly wins. Even when they
and
try to
do
their
to depower.
Yeah, and he chooses to depower. They let him have his like, oh, he died, now watch him become more powerful than ever moment. It's like they cherry pick a litany of tropes that generally speaking only really works when your character is the underdog. And I understand not wanting a character we're baking as an anti-hero and as a villain to ever feel like the underdog, because eventually when they are the antagonist of another narrative, you need them to feel like a force of nature, especially when dealing with Shazam. I get that, but by the same token, like I don't know how you get around the whole The Rock can't lose in a movie thing.
Yeah. Well, best case scenario. This is best case scenario. They're going to do like the Fast franchise. And keep in mind that the behind the scenes stuff with the Fast franchises, Vin Diesel has the same contract. Vin Diesel can't lose a fight too. So what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object is one gets a spinoff and they split the franchise, right? So
you're right. You're absolutely right.
Because if you look at the Fast franchise, Dom Toretto and Hobbs go 1v1 a couple of different times, and they one wins, then the other wins, then the other wins, then the other wins, and then they tie, and then they team up, right? Like kind of how it works.
Yeah.
Which
is incredibly comic booky. It's like the Mr. Sunday Movies joke, punch for a bit and then we're mates.
Right.
Right.
Think about I don't know if you saw Fate of the Furious.
No, the only Fast and the Furious movie I have seen was Hobbs and Shaw. Like completely in a vacuum. I have no point of reference to that franchise other than that.
Watch Fast 5. That's all. Like you could stop it after Fast 5, but watch Fast 5. It's the best one.
Okay.
In Fate of the Furious, that's the one where Vin Diesel's character betrays his own team. He's driving next to The Rock, and The Rock's like, "Hey, thanks for helping us out." And he's like, silent Vin Diesel, and then he like turns his car and like hits The Rock off the road. And that's not The Rock being weak; it's The Rock being betrayed.
Exactly.
And then The Rock's like, "I'm gonna kick his candy ass." And like he doesn't actually say that, I don't think, in that moment, but point still stands. It's like he gets betrayed, he gets blindsided. Sure, he can get kicked off the road, but he's gonna just come back better than ever,
So this is the same guy who flexes out of a full body cast.
It's like you could flex your broken arm back into place, right, and heal it automatically. Best case scenario of Shazam versus Black Adam or Superman versus Black Adam. Best case scenario is the hero fights the villain and beats the villain. Then the villain beats the hero, and then they team up. But
are we going to do that every time we see Black Adam? Like, is that does that become the conceit that every time Black Adam is in a movie, we have to do some amount of you get the W, now you get the W, now we team up and we beat somebody else up.
Right.
Like, can you really Batman v Superman, Kong v Godzilla every single Black Adam appearance? I don't think you can, especially not before it becomes painfully obvious what's happening.
Right. And that's best case scenario. Worst case scenario is Black Adam goes up against Shazam, beats him to a pulp. Then they're like, then we'll team up and team up against the bad guy.
Yeah.
Because then it's Black Adam just winning outright.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and maybe you could tell a story. I mean, you can absolutely, it depends on like the direction you go with Shazam. I think you can absolutely tell a story about like Billy and like getting into like, he's got the spirit of whatever, and he can keep getting up and kicking ass, and like I think you could absolutely do something with that. But by the same token, it would be obvious that this is just simply a product of The Rock can't lose.
Yeah.
And it's, frustrating in its own right.
Think about how many times Ryan Reynolds gets his ass kicked and how charismatic it is and endearing it is when Ryan Reynolds gets his ass kicked.
Yeah.
He gets his ass kicked legitimately all the time in every one of his movies to show that, like, it's tough. It's going to be tough for him. But his character succeeds in the end.
Yeah.
The Rock needs to succeed like every step of the way. And it's like, come on, man. It's old.
It is.
Like, real men have weaknesses. It's weird because real people have weaknesses. That's just life.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's just it's a very weird decision, and let me rephrase that. It's not a weird decision. It's very clearly ego driven, and you can very easily and clearly understand it. It is difficult to imagine how it pans out in the big picture.
Yeah. Sorry, one quick thing is that The Rock never used to have this contract. It's like modern Rock has this contract.
Yeah.
And like, if you remember The Rundown, do you remember The Rundown with him and Sean William Scott?
I do not believe I've seen The Rundown. No.
It's a fun movie. And there's a scene where they go to the jungle and pygmies beat up him and Sean William Scott. And it's a fun scene. He gets his ass kicked by pygmies. And like, it's a great scene. And it wouldn't have happened if he had that contract that he can't lose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You take the fun out of it.
I agree with you completely. And it even goes so far, like, like the very beginning of the movie with like the twist with it being the father,
Oh yeah, I saw that coming. But I was like, why would you do that? But okay, all right.
Yeah. Oh, well, here's what makes it easy to see coming. He's the only character speaking without an accent. It's really easy to tell it's The Rock because he's the only one who's just like, son, it's about drive, it's about power. It's just his voice. It's just his fucking voice. And I also want to know what the CGI budget went. How much of the CGI budget went to, like, we gotta slim you down a little bit. We're gonna make you a little, like the Funhouse mirror effect from First Avenger.
Yeah, I was about to say it is very Steve Rogers before. Yeah.
But again, with that, even there's something really funny about the fact that, like, they don't, like, he's been enslaved by the king, as everybody has been.
Yeah.
But you don't see The Rock doing slave labor. You see him walk by covered in dust, but you don't see him hunched over, digging a hole with his bare hands, Which, like, and you'd think that, like, some of that macho bullshit would make its way in. But again, the goal is to make sure that The Rock is never perceived as subservient. So you go so far in the other direction. It's very fascinating.
Here's also another problem is that, like, there's no time in which he is Black Adam in the past. Like, it's literally 5 minutes. He turns to Black Adam, he kills the king, and the wizards take the power away and entomb him, right?
Yeah.
And it's super weird because the Justice Society characters, they literally picked 2 comic characters that have literal ancient ties with the character of Black Adam. Which is
Yeah.
Hawkman and Dr. Fate were both around in Kahndaq at that time. And they don't create a story behind that. A shared
missed
history.
opportunity. Huge missed opportunity. And I'm glad you
What?
brought up the JSA, because I did want to talk about them. You know, I really enjoy Pierce Brosnan's Dr. Fate.
Yeah.
Perfect pick. I understand that costume and a lot of the effects were probably incredibly expensive. And you're already paying for The Rock. So I get it. But my kingdom for less shots of Kent in his Sunday suit and his ascot. Like I remember whenever I was like looking for images to use for the thumbnail, and like I happened upon the character posters that released, or that were released. It's like characters standing in either civilian clothes or unmasked with like full suited up version behind them. And Dr. Fate's picture is the same two pictures of him in his civilian clothes, just holding the helm. And it's like, come on, like give us more in the suit, man. Like, and he looks good in it. Like he looks damn good in those scenes. The JSA was a lot of fun. Again, as somebody who's like never seen an actual Fast and the Furious movie except for Hobbs and Shaw, all of the dialogue between Hawkman and Dr. Fate, save for like their one actual heart to heart where he's like, listen, I had a vision you were going to die. And then the follow up of, I had a vision you were going to die and I realized I can change that. So I'm going to go be the hero. Save for those two beats. So much of the dialogue is this like comical, hey, you remember that time? Oh, I remember that time, friend. It was crazy. Yes, it was. It is this like weird, empty, like just grab bag of cliches and like how like there's no real dialogue there. It's just like, hey audience, we need you to understand that Hawkman and Dr. Fate are best buddies and have known each other for forever. Quite literally known each other for forever. And I don't know. Again, there is an endearing corn and cheese and camp to this movie that makes me not cringe at that. Like, and I don't know how intentional that is. And when you think about like The Rock's impulse of always needing to be like the kick-ass, badass action hero, you realize that like, is it intentionally campy? Like, is this supposed to be exactly where you go?
The Rock
is like
not do camp because camp would be weakness.
Yeah. So like in my mind, I'm like, oh, I love how this is kind of like really fun and silly. But in my mind, I'm like, he doesn't think it's fun and silly. He's like, this is incredibly serious. It's
supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also it's funny. He's been working on this for 15 years, but like he couldn't do an accent. He couldn't be anyone other than The Rock. Like you give any one of us 15 years to prep for a role.
Yeah.
And if we took it seriously, why wouldn't we knock it out of the park? Like that was not 15 years worth of work. Like what were you? I think he was spending he was spending 14 years lobbying for the movie to be made. And then the 15th year
you're
made the movie.
Right.
You're
absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
It hasn't been 15 years in the making.
Yeah. Also, from like the moment he showed up, again, when I saw it with my girlfriend, I was just like, man, they're gonna kill Dr. Fate. And he's like, the main reason I'm here, man. I felt it in my bones.
I got 3 days till retirement.
Yeah. Again, like it's just like this other like cliche with just like bright arrows above it. I'm like, I know they're not killing Hawkman, like he's
an old guy named Dr. Fate. You might as well have called him Father Time. Like he is.
Yeah.
His time is up, man.
Absolutely. And I was happy he went out a hero. Shouts out those very specific Injustice animations.
Oh yeah.
But I did want to. I wanted to, like, while we're talking about the JSA again, they were super
Yeah.
fun, corny, cheesy, cliche. Be damned, it was fun. I have one big thing I've been waiting to talk about since I saw this movie,
Uh-huh.
and I tweeted about it. And I want to touch on this before we give final thoughts and letter grade and wrap up.
Yeah.
I'm convinced. Now, granted, I know that like the DC studio is under new ownership and leadership now.
Yeah.
I am convinced that there was a word from on high at DC that somebody thinks that Amanda Waller and Nick Fury are the same character.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, and I was having this conversation with a couple people. You know, Fury by nature is somebody who
We got a caller on this episode.
Yeah.
Long time fan, first time caller. Yeah.
Andy in Kansas, you're on the air. There was a very like Fury is an ass.
Yeah.
But he's not a malicious person. And he has the respect of the super community in the Marvel universe for the most part. Even
in
though
the
a lot
MCU,
of them,
yes.
Yeah. But even in the comics, like there's a lot of people who do not fuck with him. And they're like, I don't like you.
Yeah.
But even those people who do not like him are like, we recognize you're trying to do the right. Like there's an acknowledgement that Fury is not malicious.
Right.
Good person, very debatable. But like there is an agreement that like when the rubber meets the road, more often than not, Fury's heart is in the right place, even if he's doing some arguably heinous shit.
In the MCU, he's a lot softer than he is in the comics. In the comics, he's way more morally gray, but they still team up with him on missions. Or he's like, hey, look, we got to go to Latveria. This is in Secret War. They're like, we got to go Black Ops in Latveria. Like, we're putting a team together. And then Wolverine's like, okay, fine. I'm in, bub. You know?
Yeah.
But yes, Amanda Waller's not that. Especially
she's vile. And that's the big difference is everybody knows that she is a malicious person. Like there is malice in her heart. And like there
also, where does this fit? Did you watch Peacemaker?
I didn't finish it, but I know what happens in Peacemaker.
You know what happens in the end?
Vaguely, yeah.
They release publicly that the Suicide Squad exists.
Yeah.
That Waller is running a Black Ops Suicide Squad team called Task Force X, and it becomes national news. And we think that things are coming for her, but and then Harcourt, which is the blonde girl, played by I forget her name, but it's
I was about to say it and then I lost it. Yeah.
But Harcourt is not working for Waller at the end of Peacemaker. So when does it take place? Or was it just that they were like, hey, we wrote this script a long time ago. We're not changing it now.
Jennifer Holland.
Yes.
But no, you're absolutely right. And that was another weird question I had was and again, going back to the Nick Fury thing, where Fury and the Avengers have that working relationship, both in the comics a little bit with SHIELD generally. But in the movies, especially that argument as to whether or not they're taking marching orders, necessarily it's really hard to tell. Does the JSA work at the pleasure of Argus and Amanda Waller, or is it, or does it just happen to be this super team exists and Waller's just hey, do you mind throwing us a bone in Kahndaq?
There's two problems, right? There's two times. There's the Justice Society working for Waller, which is one thing, and then there's Superman working for Waller, which is another thing.
And that's the one that that is where my big she is not Nick Fury comes into play. So what fucking favor does Superman owe Amanda Waller?
Superman wouldn't. That's the thing. The only way is if they added a scene before that scene with Waller being like, "Hey, fly in, tell Black Adam what's up," and he's like, "I don't follow your orders. I don't answer to you." And she's like, "Look, he's a threat to the whole world. So you're going in, you're not following me. You're just telling him to stay put." And he's like, "I'll have a talk with him." And like maybe then it gives more autonomy to Superman. But they took away Superman's autonomy in that scene. Now the Justice Society answering to Waller is a different thing, which shouldn't have happened to begin with. But the way they position the Justice Society is problematic in this movie. They were there to protect global stability.
Oh my, yeah.
They were a Team America World Police.
Yeah.
They were there. They didn't go there to stop Intergang. Intergang's ripping out the resources from Kondak. They don't step in, but they step in if the regime is going to change. They're stooges, man.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And it feeds into a lot of Orientalist, very
colonization.
Really ugly tropes that like we still aren't able to shake. And like you said, like actual colonization. And that's another funny thing about this movie is that like it almost has like a really complicated political message.
Yeah.
Like the movie almost goes full tilt into like the people must rise up and usurp the colonizing empire. Like it almost does that, but then it just turns into Black Adam. Like Black Adam's just gonna fuck these guys up to save a kid. We're like, like they calm that down. They let the movie feel revolutionary for like a grand total of 30 minutes. But they rein it back in. But yeah. Getting to the end here, Dimitri, final thoughts and letter grade before we wrap it up here.
I'm still gonna my number is 5 out of 10.
Okay.
My problem is that we've had how many 2007 15 years of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and regardless of whether you like everything in the MCU or not, that's changed the landscape of superhero movies, and we need to demand more from our superhero movies. But there are going to be dumb shoot 'em up, beat 'em up kind of superhero movies, and that's fine too, where you can just turn off your brain. But I don't know whether this movie was that. I think this movie could have just been better by way of Black Adam having flaws and having weaknesses. And we're not talking about Eternium as a weakness, which was just kryptonite.
Yeah.
They gave Black Adam his own kryptonite, which didn't matter because he got shot or stabbed or whatever, and then he just healed it up with lightning and then he was fine. What's the point then? I don't know. It's to slow him down. It was just really weird. I think we should demand more or expect more from our superhero movies. It's a 5 out of 10 because like I liked certain parts, but even those certain parts can't stand on their own. And then I think to myself, like, would I show my parents this movie? Like, I think they would get bored. And my parents, we watch Fast and the Furious movies. I would say Fast and Furious movies are better movies than this movie. Fast 5 specifically. You want a better Rock movie with the same flaws that The Rock has, which is having no flaws, but just a better overall movie is Fast 5.
Oh, you hit it right there, my friend.
Yeah.
I am coming into the same area. I'm very much leaning towards like a very strong C here, or strong feelings towards a C, I should say. There are problematic elements to the story, like we were talking about, which are acknowledged by the characters within the text, but like there's never a real rebuttal therein. The Rock's ego-driven image and brand hamper some very important beats for Black Adam. Again, when you're dealing with a character whose whole thing is, I was enslaved, my people were oppressed, and now I'm here to bring a reckoning, doesn't live up to its mission statement when you don't allow there to be a reason for reckoning beyond like, men don't cry type shit.
Right.
I also just want to say, couldn't have picked a worse time to release a superhero movie that has a Kanye song.
And a heavily edited Kanye song too.
Yeah, it's just the chorus. It's just
but
the chorus.
But they cut out, like, to keep the beat of the scene. They cut some parts. They splice it.
It's weird. It's weird. It's weird. I was like, man, that's a great needle drop. Shame this is the last time I'm ever going to hear this song. I think for very good reason. But yeah, no, it's dumb, fun schlock. However, I do think it hampers itself and its own message a lot, with a lot of unforced errors. The JSA are some really fun, just caricatures, but beyond that, there's not a whole lot of meat on the bone.
It was nice seeing them get the exposure.
Yeah. I'm so glad we got Hawkman in the movie. Same with Fate. Like it's that, like,
I wanted
that
better.
on its face is good. Exactly.
Yeah. And truth be told, the only person who died was Dr. Fate, and kind of can open the door to a new Dr. Fate, which is Khalid. There's been multiple Fates in different iterations, but right now in the comics, Khalid is a Middle Eastern medical student, I believe, or ex-medical student, turned Dr. Fate. He is the nephew of Hector Hall, Kent Nelson.
Yeah.
Actually, it might be Hector Hall's. Anyway, whatever. Comics are complicated.
Yeah. Either way, we'll probably end up with a new Dr. Fate the next time that character rears around. But yeah, overall enjoyed it, but it is far from a perfect project. And ladies and gentlemen, if the biggest marketing point for your movie is that you should stay through the credits, you're not in a great spot.
It's so weird. And they said what the post-credit scene was going to be. So it wasn't a surprise. People freaked out. And there is a certain type of fan that if the post-credit scene is good, they love the whole movie that came before.
Yeah, you're right.
Which is so
you're
weird.
Fucking right. It is weird. It is weird.
Best cameo was Henry Winkler as the original Adam.
That made my heart so happy.
That was the best cameo.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you fully.
Yeah,
fully.
I love Henry Winkler. That's just an overall thing.
I got to meet him a couple times at Steel City.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Oh my god, he's such a sweetheart. He's just as nice as you think he is.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, one more thing. If you want to see a live action Justice Society that works better, watch Stargirl. Because Stargirl is all about the Justice Society, and it's one of DC's best shows.
I've heard that across the board.
Yeah,
I've heard that across the board. I've heard that is a very uniform opinion I've heard.
Justice Society and Injustice Society. Like, they do the villains pretty well and the heroes, on a TV budget.
Yeah, which is a feat unto itself.
Yeah.
Dimitri, one more time for the lovely people where they can find you and what you do before we get into the end of the show wrap up here.
Yeah, I'm the host of the Keeg. We are a live stream podcast geek channel. We do a couple of different shows every single week. We were doing a She-Hulk after show. She-Hulk's over. We're doing an Andor after show, which is Wednesday nights at 10 p.m. Pacific. We do a Thursday kind of comic book rundown of the week's comics that came out that week called Comic Talk, and that is Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific. We also do the Keeg Talks every single weekend, but you can find all that Instagram and TikTok at the Keeg Show. Again, we also have a Facebook and Twitter that we don't use that much, but Instagram and TikTok are always updated at the Keeg Show. We're also on Twitch and YouTube at /the Keeg Show. YouTube.com/the Keeg Show, Twitch.tv/the Keeg Show. And we got some big things in the works, so definitely stay tuned.
Absolutely. Please go check everything they're doing out. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You guys can find me at Dark Jedi 2552 on Twitter and Instagram. I got to get better at using TikTok. I've met so many cool people through TikTok that I just end up not like collaborating with. And it's just because like I talked about this because we had Darth Chaco on for Tales of the Jedi. And when we were talking about that, I was
love Chaco.
I know he's fucking great. And I was just talking about like most of my favorited videos are just like, ooh, I should like respond to I should respond to Chaka. Ooh, I should respond to Chaka.
That.
And I don't. I just forget.
Utilize that. Duets and stitches are your best bet to like kind of get the ball rolling.
Yeah, and every time I forget to, I had one TikTok go incredibly accidentally viral.
Yeah.
And it is so funny because it'll just get like a couple likes a day here and there.
Yeah.
It is so funny. But then other than that, it's just like I'll post something. I'll go, oh yeah, I forgot I have this. Anyway, Dark Jedi 2552 on all the things. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on our website, www.thenerdacademypodcast.com, where if you're feeling generous, you can donate to our Patreon.
Give me $1.
Speaking of our patrons, thank you to our $10 alumnus. Yeah, get ready. Nick Johnson. Keandre Lloyd. That backflip. It never gets old. The backflip never gets old. It is the best part. And to Paco, or as he's going by in the Patreon currently, Taylor Swift.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
That's the sound. That's the sound of losing $1 billion, folks.
I was about to say, yeah.
I mean, that clip is much older than when that happened, but
does the guy doesn't know how to growl or scream. He needs to work on that.
You know, this came up on the Tales of the Jedi review. I listened to a podcast called Knowledge Fight, where their whole thing basically is like, we listen to Alex Jones so you don't have to. And the host is like become like the world's expert on Jones. Like he became a part of like the legal team basically for the Sandy Hook families in Texas, in the Texas trial. Like he was like an expert witness.
Yeah.
And I was listening to one of their episodes, it's like a week or two ago. And Jones had a caller into the show, and they started like doing a scream like that, but they were harmonizing. And it was one of the most disconcerting noises I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, I'll pass.
Yeah, it's a lot. Anyway, thank you guys so very much for watching and listening. For our patrons, $5 tier and up, we did finally get a fixed version of the latest episode of the Versus series out. So Darth Maul versus Plo Koon is fixed. It does not have the intro that I liked before, but the audio and the video version are finally functional. So if anybody wants to go actually finish those episodes now and get to the verdict, they are actual functioning pieces of content now. I don't know.
That's
why
all we can hope for.
It for some reason it kept like not including the last 30 minutes of the episode every time I tried to render and fix it. And then the most recent time I did it, I was like, it's finally working. And it ended at the 33-minute and 33-second mark for some reason. So I was like, okay.
Technical difficulties, man.
Yeah, I was like, I just got to upload the raw version. I give up. Yeah. Next month's episode is going to be Satil Shan versus Grandmaster Yoda. So stay tuned for that. Getting to the end of the Versus series season, and January will be when Spencer and I do the tournament. So stay tuned for that. Next week, we'll probably be talking Andor and a news roundup, like I said, on both Knights of the Republic and TNAP. So keep your eyes open for all of that. So yeah, thank you all so very much for watching. Dimitri, again, thank you for joining us, my friend. Go check out
Thanks for having me, Jared.
the Keeg related material. And class dismissed.
Stop! Move away from the cookie jar.